Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Success is Not Convenient. As you know, this is where we talk with people and hear stories and have topics and ideas about business and struggle and success. And I always just love chatting with people who have great stories to tell. You know, there's so many great entrepreneurs out there that have down and out stories. And even though they're painful at times, that what people have to go through, they're actually necessary also to have whatever character is in that person fight through it and build really great businesses. And so today our guest is Alan Lazaros. His story is pretty interesting. Check this out. At age 2, Alan's actually birth father passed away in a car accident. And when Alan was 26 years old, he was nearly killed in an accident. At that point in his life, when all of that happened, Alan started questioning almost everything about his life. Alan, already a very successful business person, when looking from the outside in, it seemed like he really had it all figured out. But what was really going on is he was filled with pain and regret and abandonment challenges. Alan searched for all the answers and finally found what was really missing. All the time that he spent finding and working on personal development, which is what I love about Alan's story. Today, Alan says, I'm grateful for leading a global team of 18 individuals as the founder and the CEO of Next Level University. It's a global top 100 podcast focused on helping others reach their own unique potential in health, wealth, and in love. With well over 2,100 episodes and more than 1 million people listening in 180 countries, that's pretty amazing. Alan has been doing deep, meaningful work for more than a decade. And after accumulating more than 10,000 hours of coaching, training, and podcasting with all sorts of walks of life, Alan believes in a heart-driven but no BS approach to achieving both external success and internal fulfillment. Alan believes that we are all far more capable than we realize when given the right guidance, and is honored to help all of our listeners today reach their unique next level of success. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you, and let's welcome Alan Lazaros. Boy, I'll tell you what, I'm so excited, Alan, that you are joining us today, and for all these great viewers of our Success is Not Convenient podcast. And I love talking with great people like you who have had awesome experiences in life, also some struggles, which I love getting into, because I think our listeners here on Success is Not Convenient not only listen to the great stories of success that people have had, Alan, but also a lot of the trials and tribulations, I think, that make people great in the fields that they're in. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it, you doing that today.
First and foremost, thank you for having me. I try to start with gratitude, especially with things like this, because to your point about struggle, I remember in the beginning 11 years ago when I started in this space, self-improvement, personal growth, personal development, and it was crickets. So I always joke, Sam's Cola and Coca-Cola. In the beginning, you're Sam's Cola. No one knows who Sam is. So thank you so much for having me. I don't take it lightly to speak into people's lives. I really don't. Thank you.
Well, and I love this too, because you and I can help each other with helping other people through our conversations. You know, we who do podcasts have one goal and one goal in mind anyway, and that's is how many people can we touch through the stories in the lives of others. And so it's really a cool blessing. If you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about your journey, but let's start with your company and what your goals are for your company and what your ultimate goal is in your company. And then we can reel back a little bit and talk about your story and how you got here.
Love it. So the first thing to preface this with is I'm a computer engineer, so everything is math for me. So when you say the goals of my company, I can give you kind of two versions. I can give you the math version and I can give you the practical version. So the math version is, so it's Next Level University is the name of the company. Next Level University is also the name of the podcast. And underneath that is really this desire. I had a quote 11 years ago after a car accident of mine. It was, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. Because I was an achiever, an academic, straight A student, and I got in a car accident at 26 and essentially realized that most of the personal development, personal growth, and self-improvement stuff that I was learning after that, I didn't learn in school. And didn't learn about finance until grad school, these kinds of things. So the goals for my company right now is to grow, the numbers goals is to grow 41% year over year. So if you grow 9% per quarter, 41% year over year, you double your company every 2 years. And a lot of people wonder, It's the compound effect, because 41 divided by 4 is not 9. So why is that? It's just the compound effect, which actually comes down to 0.1% per day, which is kind of my main focus. So that's my computer engineer answer. 0.1% per day, every day, 7 days a week. My more practical answer is we are trying to your point, turn our passion of personal development into purpose, helping people develop themselves for a bigger, better, brighter future, and then profitably, and then reinvesting that profit back into the company. And we're trying to snowball that. So we're growing fast. We're looking at 40% growth this year, potentially 45 if things go well, and we just got a big client. So, but my main focus as CEO every single day is how do we grow the company? And I always say this too, last piece, profitability should never be first, but it should not be 10th either.
Sure.
Yeah. So the impact is the main focus, making the world a better place every day, genuinely. But in order to do that, you have to grow so you can reinvest back in the snowball.
You know, I love so much how you said it. And I think for any of us that do this kind of work, we can never look at the dollar because we have no idea what that even looks like. I think it has to start with a passion in us to deliver a message to folks. In my particular case, it's, you come from somewhere, you achieve something, and then through all of trying to achieve something, you have interesting ups and downs through life and through business. I think that a lot of people can, relate to or experience in their journeys also. When we decide to do work like we're doing today, you and I, you really just have to do it, I believe, that you're out reaching out to others. And if a business becomes out of that, that's perfectly fine. But the ultimate goal is to serve people and to help educate so we can help better their lives. So who is your, if you don't want me asking, let me ask you, so who is your primary goal of somebody who works with you? Because I know that you do a lot of this stuff for other people. Yep. Tell me a little bit about who you look for and how you can help those people.
So the core value answer is someone with high humility, high work ethic, and high self-improvement orientation. That's the sort of green, yellow, red is what I use. So if you and I met before and you were green, and there's two types of people I never work with. One is spoiled brats, people who want huge rewards for minimal effort. Anyone with a birthday week, I steer clear of. The world revolves around them, right?
I love
And then
that.
number two is bullies, people who put others down to feel bigger. So that's kind of my esoteric answer. My practical answer is anyone who wants to start, grow, scale, and monetize a business on the internet in the 21st century, who has high humility, high work ethic, and high self-improvement. Because if you don't have those three, you're not going to get along with me, because I'm kind of old school in my, you have to earn every second of every day. You deserve nothing. You have to earn your way to success and achievement. And you have to stay humble when you're winning, and you have to stay confident when you're losing. And you can really never let anything get to your head but a lot of people in this space on the internet makes it very easy to lie. So a lot of people are renting Ferraris and acting wealthy, and I've met them, and I'm telling you, they're broke as a joke.
Yeah.
And that's not how you grow and scale a real company. So it's become the Wild West a little bit on the internet, especially in social media land. But we try to go back to the tried and true fundamentals of what it really takes every single day. And to finish that thought would be, the people I'm looking for are people who want to help real people in the real world with a real problem, and who really they're not trying to find quick fixes. Because I don't have any quick fixes for you. We have 2,272 episodes as of yesterday. Like, we can't teach you how to take shortcuts when we didn't take any. And we've been podcasting.
Getting there quick.
What'd you say?
There's no way of getting there quick.
There are ways, but I think a lot of them are out of integrity.
Yeah.
We've been podcasting for 9 years, and we were really struggling in the beginning, quite frankly. I mean, we made $13,000 in the first 2 years in business. Total. Between two people. Wow. In Massachusetts. That is abject poverty. Fortunately, we had a nest egg.
How do you keep a vision in that? So if when you're podcasting and you're looking this as a business as you have today, how do you keep going after 2 years making $13,000 with two people? $13,000 doesn't go very far in two people's lives.
No. So Kevin and I, my business partner, we bootstrapped the company, no outside investors. And fortunately, we both left six-figure jobs, and we had a nest egg. So I had $150,000 in Vanguard in stocks. I had to liquidate all my money to stay afloat. And then credit cards is the second answer, right? But ultimately, how do we stay confident when we're losing? Kevin's answer would have been, I trusted Alan. And he would say that too. That's my business partner, Kev. He would literally tell you that. My answer is, I didn't ever question whether or not we could be successful long term. I knew eventually if you help enough people in a way that is meaningful for a long enough period of time, like, you will be successful. And we were really innovative. Like, we really found a way. I didn't really ever question whether or not we could be successful. And I think that that's hard to say out loud because most people struggle with self-belief. And my short answer would be, I just knew we'd make it. I mean, we're not the first people to start from nothing and make something of ourselves. So I just knew if we stuck with it long enough, it would work. And when you say no, how did you know that? I think my engineering brain reverse engineered it. So it's not like I was shocked to only make 13,000. That was all par for the long-term strategy.
You know, it's so, I love that. I love everything you just said. And you had a belief in yourself when there wasn't a lot to believe in after 24 months of, and I know the work that goes into building any company. And of course, with our podcast and all the social media stuff that we do, the amount of work that is associated with the work we do, like, they'll see this video, but they don't understand the work that goes into all the things that we do to get here, even to here. And so the best thing I love that you said though, Alan, is your belief in yourself. And it didn't really matter whether things were stacked against you. And I think in your life, which we'll get into in a minute, because I read your bio when we started, and about the tragedies that you had with your father, and then so on and so forth, even with your accident. So you just have a high level of belief within yourself, and you knew this would work. Your partner trusted you, you trusted your partner, and it was just a matter of time, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, Kevin and I have figured out that there's two. So the psychology calls it self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is a fancy word for how much do you believe in your own ability to do the inputs and create the output. And so I have this systems thinking methodology that I use with all my 24 clients currently. It's picture a rectangle, inputs, outputs, measure, adjust. Inputs, outputs, measure, adjust. To me, everything's a formula. And so I knew we'd crack the code eventually. And it's not like you crack the code and you're done. You create an SOP and then you improve upon it over and over and over and over again. And in 2,272 episodes, you should probably have something figured out. and I think my belief in the compound effect is what really is the answer. If you put $1 on a financial calculator, anyone can do this. Just don't use AI to do it because ChatGPT gets it wrong for whatever reason, which is alarming. But put $1 on a financial calculator and grow it by 0.1% every day. 0.1%. 1/10 per day. 0.1. And if you do that every day for 50 years, you have $84 million. It's 83 something. Wow. I rounded up. It's above 83 and a half.
That's incredible.
If you take weekends off, so you only do 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week, guess what the number is?
I'm just going to guess the number's half.
439,000.
Yeah. Okay. I was even way off.
191%. So wait, no, rephrase. If you get a little better every day and I get a little better only on the weekdays and I coast on the weekends, mathematically speaking, you have 191 times the outcome. I think that's the real answer, because Kevin would ask me, like, how did you know this would work? And I would say, you can't help that many people for that long without eventually being successful. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's now that he knows the number, we call it no deviation from the mean. I have it up on my background. I have it written on my whiteboard. No deviation from the mean. Volatility is the enemy of compound interest. And investors know this. You need Warren Buffett, just consistent 8%, never miss. You can't have 2 and then 20 and then 1 and then 25. Like, volatility destroys compounding. So that's why Stoicism works. So we just never deviated from the mean, the average, and you just get a little better every single day. And eventually, when you do that long enough, Tom Brady's a great example of this. He wasn't particularly great at anything, but the dude never strayed. Statistically speaking, he never strayed from getting a little better each day. And long term, over a long 22 or 24 year career, you end up the best When in reality, it's the tried and true fundamentals that you were doing behind the scenes when no one was watching. And so I think that I just knew mathematically that we had an advantage because we were playing the long game. We were focused on improvement over everything, and we were focused on impact, which I think long term starts to really compound, and then you get clients and you get listeners all over the world, and then you have team members. People want to be on your team. Like, everyone wants to be on a winning team.
Yeah.
And people intuitively can tell you're a winner.
Yeah. God, I love that Tom Brady analogy too. And I was just thinking back while you were talking about that. And, you know, if you look at when he got drafted, and his body didn't look athletic at all, right?
Yeah.
His vertical jump wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
And, but it was his attitude and his work ethic. So when you're working with people, or maybe we can even go back with not even just the ones you're working with now, but maybe your history and coaching and training and helping others grow, what have you found in, because I have found that most people will settle in complacency, kind of mediocrity, and not really strive for anything really great. I find others, which is a smaller percentage, that will really work hard and achieve some really cool stuff. Tell me what your experience is. What makes mediocre people, fearful people to move forward? What's the difference in them? Like, what goes on in their head? And then those that actually block all that out and then have a high level success. How would you describe, and what would you say about why those two groups of people think differently?
Okay, so I have the number. It's called my magic number. And I'm saying this for credibility, not as a flex. For the last 11 years, I'm 37 now. I've done 11,860 coaching sessions, trainings, and podcasts. 11,860. It used to be called my 10,000 hour tracker. I changed it to my magic number after 10,000. But I've been tracking these for 11 years now. All different industries, all different cultures, all different backgrounds, all different spaces, all different ethnicities, genetics, all different, okay? What I've found at this point, this is what I sort of categorize people in, and I want people to stay open-minded for a second because the labels might trigger them. All right, particularly someone who does struggle with self-belief, just stay open-minded to this for a second. Okay. So I have 3 categories of people that I need to know. When I coach someone, I need to know which one's your big one. We all have all 3 of these, but we have one really big one. And that's the one that runs us. You can call it a core wound. You can call it a core identity. You can call it a core belief. You can call it a core limiting belief. And there's 3 labels. The first one I call defective. All right. A defective has a limiting core belief in their identity that all of them is not enough. These are the people not smart enough, not capable enough. I don't think I can do it. They don't believe in themselves deep down. Okay, that's the majority of the population, unfortunately. And those people need to work on building self-efficacy. So the first category is defective, and they don't have high self-efficacy, but they pretend in public that they do because they don't want anyone to know that they don't believe in themselves. So I always say this. Everyone think of someone who acts really confident, 10 out of 10 confident. And I always say, why would someone with level 10 confidence have level 2 goals? It's not real.
It's not real.
Now, the first core wound creates the second one, and this one's mine. So if anyone's defective out there, don't latch onto that label. You're not actually defective. It's just a limiting belief. The second one is called an unlovable. This is someone who actually is good at things, who actually does believe in themselves. Bernie, this is definitely you. Who doesn't understand why everyone doesn't have goals. It's like, why? You're so capable. They see potential in everyone.
Yes.
These are the martyrs. These are the people so the first core wound is all of me is not enough. The second core wound is all of me is too much.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
So all right. So that second group, because you said there's 3, right? Did I say you correctly?
Yep.
Okay. So what's the third? Sorry, I don't want to jump ahead. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah. So the second one is you and me, which is why we're going to get along well and we're going to get a lot of haters. The third one is what's called unwanted. So the first one, all of me is not enough. The second one, all of me is way too much. I need to dial down and pretend I'm less because I get belonging when I do and acceptance.
Yes.
The third one is all of me does not belong. These are the sort of lost souls that feel, typically they're very spiritual, they're very connected to self. They know who they are, and they're very authentic, but they They don't feel like they fit in any groups. So they party hop. They have commitment issues typically, and they have a really hard time being vulnerable. They'll show you all of who they are, but they'll be very careful with who gets close to them. They have like a big glass wall up where you can see all of who I am, but you're going to do it from over there. So the defectives, typically their deepest fear is being seen as a failure. An unlovable's typical deepest fear is being seen as more than, like successful, shining. So they usually only do it in certain contexts, like on the basketball court or where it's okay socially, right? But then at the barbecue, they're like, okay, I can't talk about myself at all. I can't say I'm great about anything. I can't tell my achievements.
Yes,
right?
I hear you.
And then the unwanteds are people who, they just opted out. They saw the unlovables and defectives just hurting each other constantly. And they were just like, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to put up these big walls. And I don't really want to get close to anyone, but I feel alone because of it. And so those are the three core wounds, I call them, that I need to know. Even if my client doesn't know it, I know which one. And we all have a code. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3. So that's what I size up as a computer engineer the moment I meet you. So when I met you, you're a 2, 3, 1. And that to me tells me that I'm safe here and I can shine as much as I want and you're not going to be offended and insecure. However, your listeners won't like me. So I have to walk that line carefully.
Wow. You know, what's so fun about the group you and I sit in is you pegged it anyway. For me, I would just say, for me, a little is a lot. As I always say, a little of Bernie goes a long way, right? And because I have a high level of expectation in people, and that's not always a good thing. It's probably more of a disappointing thing for those of us that feel that way, correct?
Yes, we get disappointed constantly because we're projecting our potential onto others. So when I meet someone, I see their true potential, and I see what they could be capable of, and you basically realize over time that so for example, you and me go back to childhood. Everyone had dreams and goals. Goals and dreams. Goals and dreams. Goals and dreams. And when you look back, I mean, you're older than I am, but I'm 37 now. And I'm like, oh, where is everybody? Like,
yes.
You said you were going to do X, Y, Z. Why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
And you realize that a lot of that was actually them mirroring you and your own sort of echo chamber of self-belief.
So how do you coach if you have one of these other two groups, 1 or 3?
Yep.
Is there a way that a 1 or a 3 becomes a 2? Because I might be wrong. You're the expert here on this one, but I'm a believer that it's a conditional belief that started somewhere.
Yes.
It's not, and I could be wrong again, Alan, but I don't think it's a DNA trait. I think it's a conditional behavior that happened at a young age, and then through whatever things happened to people in time, created their responses in life.
Yes.
Would that be accurate?
Yes. So there's internal family systems, there's cognitive behavioral therapy, there's all these different modalities that you can research. And my sort of framework is I've kind of took all of it and tried to make my own practical solutions-based coaching. The traumas from your childhood typically wire you a certain way. However, you also do have natural inclinations genetically. So one that I'll give you an example of is there's 2 ways to look at, and I'll use me as an example, okay? So just leading by example here. I was told, Alan, you're really good at math. You're not as good at English. Now, is that because I was genetically wired for mathematics? Or is that a conditioned belief that was instilled in me? And then naturally I was drawn to math and I got better at it and I was, avoiding English. And I think it's a duality. I think it's both. Because quite frankly, math has always come easy to me. It just has. It's just very Good Will Hunting-esque. It just feels like it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
However, I also think there's conditioning wrapped around that. And so most of us, when we have a quarter life crisis or midlife crisis, we sort of start going back to true self. And true self, I think, is realizing that the defective, unlovable, and unwanted, you can transform beyond it. And that's when you become the guide instead of this sort of victim, villain, or hero. So defectives tend to be victims. They feel like the world owes them something and they don't know why they never win. and they crave significance at the deepest level. That's why they love their birthday. Unlovables don't even
I
want
know people
their
that
birthday.
do that. That's why I'm laughing. I know people that celebrate for a week or a month.
Bernie, you don't even want people to know your birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that's an unlovable trait. Like I took mine off Facebook so that no one would reach out. But unlovables have significance by default. So let me do the math of this. A bell curve is a statistical population. It's a statistical sample set. So let's imagine you have 100 people in a room, random globally. 97% of them, I think, have the core wound of all of me is not enough. So the center of the bell curve is a lot of belonging and acceptance, but very little significance. Because belonging, acceptance, and love comes from commonality. Significance comes from being different. So I feel a ton of, and the only reason I know this is because my business partner, Kevin, I wanted to be likable like him unconsciously, and he wanted to be significant and respected like me. And it makes sense, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're at the top of the bell curve, meaning really good at something, you get a ton of significance from that. Tom Brady's another good example. He gets a lot of significance, but most people hate him, right? I think it sucks because he seems like a pretty good male role model, all things considered, certainly better than most. I've always liked him, but people hated him when he left New England because I'm from New England. And I remember thinking, you guys were worshiping him last year. And by the way, he won again, okay? The dude's got more Super Bowls than the entire league. My point is, though, they loved the significance of him being on their team. They didn't love the mastery of what it takes to be Tom Brady. I read his book. I read Edelman's book. I read Bill Belichick's book. I also read about Robert Kraft because I wanted to figure out how that happened because that was like one of the most successful things in history, and I studied success. And I wanted to figure out who it was. Because people say no one achieves anything great alone, and that's true. And one player can make a great team. One Michael Jordan, one Kobe Bryant, one Tom Brady, one Serena Williams. It's because you can set the pace. You can set the standard. And so Edelman talks about how when he left New England with Tom Brady, he was like, oh my God, you guys are child's play. This is crazy. It's because of the standard that was set inside of him. But remember, people like his significance and take a photo with him, but then talk crap about him behind his back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so that's why the haters thing is such a thing, because it's like the unlovables are basically very significant, but they're not relatable. Like, it's not relatable for me to say, well, I've always believed in myself and I never really questioned that we'd be successful. Socially, that's a terrible idea, which is why I'm all red right now. So when you asked me earlier, like, how did you know 13, like, how'd you guys know you'd make it? And the truth is I calculated it, but you're not really allowed to say that. People think you're a dingus.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep giving all these disclaimers of, hey, I'm a computer engineer. Hey, is it okay that I tell you the truth? Hey, by the way, some people don't struggle with self-belief. Hey, by the way, you are alone in that. And some of us are actually really capable and actually are smart enough and actually are good enough. And so it becomes this thing where the defectives feel a ton of love and acceptance, but they feel insignificant. Unlovables feel super significant all the time. And that's why they don't understand why the birthday matters so much. But yet they never feel acceptance and love. And then the unwanteds just opted out and are kind of in this sort of their own sort of island. And they kind of just were like, you know what, I'm going to get rid of the drama and trauma here. And so to answer your original question though, a defective can transform, an unlovable can transform, and an unwanted can transform. And this is what I figured out. I call it the triad of transformation. It's humility, courage, and vulnerability. I believe you cannot transform without at least one of these three coming up. Humility is inward humility, meaning I know that I don't know. So for defectives, I think they need to own and admit that they don't know much. They have to own and admit that they're not that smart. And once they do, they'll go get smarter and they'll get around smart people. How hard
is it for them though, Alan, for that group to admit the fact that because that's a hard thing. That's like a reflection, right? And again, you and we're in the same tribe, so we're going to talk very similar language. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking to these other two groups, what has to happen as coaches? Maybe a better question is this: because you're helping me out as coaches, how do we look at these two groups and inspire them to want to be different and look in the mirror and say, I'm at fault for everything that I have, and the reason I don't have it is I'm also at fault.
That's the hardest part of my life. Because you and I can sit here on this podcast all day and hold up a bunch of mirrors. And you and I are mirrors in general, because a lot of people who have the core limiting belief of not good enough, they want to believe that I was given everything and that I started on third base. So when they find out my dad died at 2, that I had a really tough childhood, my stepdad left at 14, we were broke as a joke, how do we keep the house in the family, how am I going to go to college, to I bootstrapped and built all this from scratch, they go, shoot, you were worse off than me and still made it here. So what's my excuse? And so we are walking, talking mirrors of what's possible, which is very inspiring. But if you don't believe in yourself, it's just pain.
Man, that is so how much do you feel? You know what? I wish we had 3 hours. So I really do. This is just such good stuff because it's in my wheelhouse, and I love these kind of conversations.
Same.
So how much of this early childhood, your father passing, your rough upbringing within the family dynamic you had as a child or as a young teenager, to then your car accident that you had at 26, I believe, right?
Yep.
You were 26?
Yep.
How did those experiences when you were younger shape you to who you are today? Like, what did you learn from all of that? Because when you say, well, people say, well, now you're here and I'm here, what caused you to be who you are through those experiences?
Trauma responses. So there's something called an ACE score, and everyone can look this up. It's Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACE. And I have come to learn, and I laugh, but it's really not a laughing matter. I have come to realize that my ACE score is off the charts. And a high adverse childhood experiences, a Goodwill Hunting is kind of a good metaphor for this. My trauma, so there's 4 trauma responses. So there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fight means you're always fighting something. Flight means you avoid. Fawn means you appease. That's what we did. As growing up, we appeased. And usually we appease someone with the core wound of defective. It's called an enabler. You basically enable someone because you believe in them so much, even though it's based on rose-colored glasses that aren't true. Tough stuff here. Okay, and then so fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Freeze is do nothing. So the reason I became who I am, quote unquote, is because I had a lot of trauma, but my trauma response was very constructive. There's a destructive trauma response that I had and a constructive one. And I want to be very honest. Most people with a high ACE score, drugs and alcohol is where they go. And I did too. So I'm not saying that I haven't struggled. However, if you do have high self-efficacy, an identity that is, I am capable and I can totally figure this out, and I have a big, bright future if I take responsibility, the trauma response is going to be fight, meaning aim higher, work harder, get smarter. So I had 2 trauma responses in hindsight that were autopilot, by the way. I didn't know this till my 30s. I didn't know this till 26. 26 is when I kind of chose it. So when bad things would happen, and they happened a lot, first we have to break down, there's 2 types of adversity in life. The first one is life happening to you. Death of a loved one, death of a pet, big accident, bullies, you name it. Life happening to you. The second one is an inevitable byproduct of having huge goals and dreams. The challenges that you have to face to go on a hero's journey. So I didn't know this, but I chose both. And there's this idea called anti-fragile, where the more you attack someone, the stronger they get. The more you come at them and bully them and beat them and hurt them, the stronger they get. And Oprah Winfrey is a good example of that. Because she had an atrocious childhood and a really high ACE score, but she always found a way to serve at a greater level. Whether like her, love her, hate her, Oprah has made something of herself through massive pain. And you can study that. And she's not the only one, but that is the smaller percentage of people that go through adversity. I happen to be in that percentage, but it's because deep down, unconsciously and subconsciously, which is 200,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind, we had an identity of we can do this. The past is painful and the present is painful, but the future's bright, and I fucking know it. And I can build it. And so because of that, my trauma response was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Stepdad left, no trust fund, no generational wealth, no dad. If it's going to be, it's up to me, and I'm going to take responsibility. But here's the question. Why would someone take responsibility if they don't have self-belief? Mm-hmm. If you don't have self-belief, you're not going to take responsibility, and you're going to destroy your ability to respond.
It's so great. And you can take, and so we have, let's say we have a family dynamic where we have, do you have siblings?
I have a sister, yeah.
A sister, okay. So let's just take a family that has had the same experience, all 2 or 3, 4 kids, whatever, had the same experience, but half of them or 3 of the 4 of them or whatever it might be, they go one direction and make something really great, and the other 1 or 2 go the opposite direction, but everybody has a similar experience.
Yes.
We all had the same trauma.
Things happen to us.
Yeah. So what makes the difference in the ones that go
self-belief?
Yeah, self-belief.
Self-efficacy. Self-belief. So Bernie, you and again, this is my clinical coaching hat. Okay, so I'm going to coach you live for a second.
Yeah.
It would be very obvious to me that you had high self-efficacy, not just on inputs but also on outputs. Meaning when bad things happen to you, you internalize that as, okay, I can do better now. I can find a way to make this better. I can find a way to be better. And I'm going to change my behaviors. I'm going to change what I do to make sure that I get the outcomes that are still positive.
That's correct.
Yeah. And these are the heroes. These are the martyrs. So eventually we have to realize that if you keep trying to save everybody, you're going to die. And that's why you're laughing, because you found that out probably in your 40s or 30s. I don't know when.
We're gonna try that. We're gonna try that dying though, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. Until eventually, unlovables don't set boundaries until they're near death. And the idea here, to be playful but also truthful, defectives need to learn how to fail in public. Unlovables need to learn how to shine in public. And unwanteds need to learn how to commit. Like commit to an outcome in advance. They have a really hard time saying, I'm going to do this. You're going to see me at the top of this mountain or dead on the side of it with a smile. Unlovables do that all the time. We decide in advance, like this is going to happen or I'm going to die trying. That's a high self-belief thing. But what happens is your pain. So defectives feel good socially, but they have pain in their real life. Typically, and again, these are overgeneralizations. Unlovables in real life, they're actually very capable and competent, and they love their real life, but socially, it's so much pain. Just suffering, bullying, just so much pain. And then unwanteds are kind of just very lonely, but they don't really have a ton of drama in their life, typically.
Wow. That is so good. And sad. We look at our lives, and it's like, there's so much to what you are talking about that not only I resonate to as my own life and my own personality, but also as a coach to others, I see so much differences. But in relation to what you just laid out, we die trying to help, but like it kills us trying to help other people who just can't see the potential in themselves.
Yep. It hurts us so much. It makes us sad. And that sadness, we turn into frustration, and then we use it to make the world a better place. Literally, this company, Next Level University, was built on my own inability to realize that most people are not going to be successful. Like, I'm not joking. I want to see everyone successful and fulfilled. And there's certain people I've coached where I spent years and they just can't do it, man. It's like, brother, get off your ass, right? Like, it's not that hard. But the truth is, it's not that hard for us. Whereas if we're at Thanksgiving dinner and we want to share a truth, it's very hard for us to stand up and actually call anything out, right? So we all have the elephant in the room of the family member who's an alcoholic, but no one talks about it.
Yeah.
That's basically, we have no ability to like call it out.
Yeah.
And we spend our life tiptoeing around the delicate sensibility of people who don't believe in themselves, and then working behind the scenes to try to make the world a better place. And eventually you can transcend that. And this didn't happen until my 30s, but somewhere in my 30s, I started to realize, I started doing therapy. I have a therapist named Carol. And I started to realize that the common denominator of my own suffering was someone externally in my life, that if I sail away from them, my life will be better. It's what I call the source of the toxins. Everyone has a source of the toxins. And the metaphor that I use for this is, imagine a pristine lake, eagles, beautiful, mountains in the background. It's pristine, it's nature, it's gorgeous. And then someone puts a pipe into the lake and just floods toxins, just a little bit at a time. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, some of the frogs are dying. That's all right, interesting. All right, well, the eagles are going somewhere else. It's kind of getting swampy. This is kind of crappy. Here's my truth. I grew up in a toxic environment, and the old me never could have said that out loud. But I wasn't the source of the toxins. And when I learned that, it changed my whole freaking life. So everyone I coach has what I call the source of the toxins. There's only one common denominator in your life of drama and trauma. That's the biggest one. Obviously, there's a ton of people in this narrative, but there's one that is the common denominator for all of your suffering. If you identify that and sail away from that person, your life will it will be crazy how successful you are and fulfilled. Now, if you can't find who it is and it's not obvious yet, it might be you. Which means you might be the source of your own trauma, and you might be victim, and you might be thinking it's the world or the government or someone else's fault.
Yes.
When in reality, it's actually your own limiting beliefs, and that's when you get a therapist. That's when you get a coach. That's when you get a mentor or you get a guide. And you need to get around people that make you feel uncomfortable at the ego level.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And I'm a believer that the brain, it's in protection mode, it's in fear mode. It's the brain is in protection of ourselves and our emotions, and yet what's it protecting? It's holding on to past experiences that might have been hurtful. It doesn't allow us to release for joy. And I was just doing a talk earlier on a different podcast, believe it or not, about what prevents how our brain works to doing things that are uncomfortable. And I went into a whole illustration about the pain associated with people doing something that makes them uncomfortable. And I think life can be that way for a lot of people, where they get so fear-based, based on whatever their conditional beliefs are when they were young, that they don't ever really experience anything great in life. And our job, you and I, is to try to pull back a little of that onion, right, the layer, and expose them to better opportunities. And I think that's the great work that you and I get to do each and every day. How can people get a hold of you? Tell us a little bit about the website they can go to if they need to reach you, if they have any interest in what you've had to say, and the coaching opportunities that you have for others.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And for anyone who does identify with Bernie and I on this episode, social courage is the answer. Like setting, and this is the question that changed my world, and then I'll tell you where you can find me. I said, Alan, because for me it was abandonment issues. Stepdad left, dad died. Like I had a lot of abandonment. And for people who do believe in themselves and they do want to reach the next level and they do have goals and dreams and they do want to change the world in their own unique way, you're afraid that you're going to get abandoned, and you stick around in old world. I always picture like a butterfly hanging out with a bunch of caterpillars eating, Thanksgiving dinner. And you basically clip your own wings before you go. Yes. And you're too scared to go to the next level and be abandoned. And I there was a point in my 30s when I realized, Alan, have you ever had someone abandon you and had your life not improve?
Wow.
Oh. Yeah. So why am I so afraid? Because when we were kids, abandonment meant no survival and meant death. Now that you're an adult, Alan, you realize all of that is what's called CEM, covert emotional manipulation. You don't need others. You want them. So defectives struggle with dependence. They depend on others for their success. Unlovables are codependent. Unwanteds are hyper independent. And all of us can evolve to what's called interdependent, meaning I don't need Bernie and Bernie doesn't need me, but we want to collaborate. We don't have to. We don't need each other, but we want each other. And that is where all success is. So if all that resonates, I hope, if nothing else, someone identifies which one of these is their big one and then works on it. Because on the other side of that is a transformation that will make you not only more of your true self, but a better person. And that's what we need in the world, is more fulfilled people who are aligned.
Well, and
life
life is such a journey, and hopefully a long one, that why live with any of these barriers that hold us back from full fulfillment? And that's what I'm hearing you say is we have the baggage and we can release it and feel free from it, but we have to identify it. We have to name it. You said it earlier in the podcast, you have to name it. And so you have to name it and then let it go.
Name it, accept it, then consciously work on overcoming it. Right?
Give
All
us
of me is not
give us
enough.
the website they can find you.
Yeah, nextleveluniverse.com, spelled just like it sounds. If you resonated with this and you have high humility, high work ethic, and high self-improvement orientation, and you have a sincere interest to reach your full potential, because ultimately, if you don't want to reach your full potential, I'm just going to be a pain in the A. Seriously. My business partner says I always say I'm the pain in the butt you'll thank one day. But ultimately, Next Level University podcast, we do 0.1% improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free every single day. Next Level University, not Next Level Kevin, not Next Level Alan, Next Level you, pun intended. And if you resonate with the podcast, you will definitely resonate with what we do in the world. If you don't and the podcast triggers you, I totally understand, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're so awesome of a guy, man, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you, obviously not too long ago, and then you were so nice and gracious to get on our podcast here, and I feel very blessed and grateful for not only who you are as a person, but being able to bless and grace all the people that get to hear this message. Man, I'm blown away by the message and the thought process, and the fact that I met a really great friend here that is in alignment with what we're trying to teach people. So, Alan Lazaros, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your knowledge, and we'll have to do this again another time and do a part 2 and get even deeper into some of this stuff.
Bernie, thank you for having me. Thank you for the work you're doing in the world, and I would do a part 2 anytime you want. Just say the word.
Dude, you're the best, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.